Hi everybody, how you doing today? Interceptor here, doing a really fun section of Latin, gerunds and gerundives, most people's least favorite. Aw, thanks for the resub, Punch. Your random emote means a lot to me. No, it doesn't. I don't even know what it's supposed to mean. But there it is. I have it now. Oh. And there goes the cat food. Good. All right. So, I am going to talk about gerunds and gerundives. And you guys have some vocab to study. All right. So, gerunds are verbal nouns. So, verbal, they're from verbal roots. They have actioniness about them. But they are used as nouns, so objects of verbs, subjects of verbs. They have those kinds of roles in sentences. So in the example here, we have, by overcoming the Gauls, Caesar won a great glory. So by overcoming is kind of like an ablative of means. Caesar won great glory by means of overcoming the Gauls. But overcoming is a verb. So how do you use a verb like an ablative? You use a gerund. All right. And that is, in fact, what is in that sentence. A lot of people confuse it for a present active participle. Streaming is a weekly activity for me. That is a gerund. But if you say, while streaming, my cat bothered me, that would be a present active participle. So it is by context that we know whether it's a gerund or a participle in the English. In the Latin, they look quite different. All right. To translate this by the Latin, infinitive would be impossible. So remember that the infinitive is also a noun, to overcome, but that is a blank form. It doesn't change form, so it can't be used as an ablative. It can really only be used in very certain circumstances. Latin has another verbal noun called the gerund, declined as the neuter of a second declension noun. So it gets the blank, hey Roz, how are you? So it gets the, it's a second declension, so it gets the e, o endings. We only need, for a gerund, we only need the singular because you don't need a plural verbal noun. You only need the singular verbal noun for the gerund. And that's also why they say the gerund is a neuter second declension in the genitive, dative, accusative, ablative singular. The infinitive is used for the nominative. So it's just this little language quirk. And as the note says, sometimes the infinitive is used as an accusative. So infinitive can either be nominative or accusative. Gerund gets used for everything else. And sometimes the accusative. So how do you get the gerund? Well, that nd of the word is your hint. We're actually using what looks like the future passive participle. Oh yeah, no worries, Roz. You got to take care of work and stuff first. I hope you are doing well. I actually got started on time for once, so, you know, that wasn't working to your advantage. So the future passive participle is ndus That's where we get Carthago delenda est, Carthage must be destroyed. So we actually use essentially what looks like that form for our gerund. And again, that nd is going to be your hint that the gerund has an nd in it. And so for superare, which is a first conjugation verb, you would have superandum for the nominative, but we don't use a nominative, we just use the infinitive for that. And then superandi, o. So of overcoming, for overcoming, overcoming as a direct object, which sometimes uses the infinitive, and by overcoming, or any other ablative use for that matter. The final day with that cohort, oh yeah, gotta have your farewells and everything, that's nice. Alright. Like the infinitive, the gerund governs the same case as the verb from which it is derived. So if you need to have an object, such as overcoming the Gauls, Gauls would be in the accusative. We know a couple verbs that take a dative object, for example. If you had a gerund with one of those, the object would be dative. All right. So again, you add d, o, to the present stem. So first conjugation, amandi. Second, monendi. Third, regendi. Capiendi for third io. And fourth, audiendi. You got that ie. But otherwise, pretty straightforward. Deponent verbs have the gerund of the active voice. So even though 90% of the time they're passive in form, active in meaning, they nevertheless form the gerunds just like every other verb. All right, so easy peasy. But what about the gerundive? This is where Latin and English differentiate. English, being English, not having cases, not having endings, is very happy only using the gerund. By overcoming the Gauls, blah, 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 blah. Latin, being Latin, likes to have more forms. And so instead of using a gerund with an object, it likes to use a gerundive, like an adjective, modifying the noun that is its object. Dark! Hey. So, the gerundive is the name given to the future passive participle, because again, it's got that same delenda, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. So when the future passive participle is used as a verbal noun like a gerund, we have to translate it with a gerund because we don't have gerundives. But it is the adjective corresponding to the gerund. What does that mean? Let's break it down with these examples here. Future. I'll speak more slowly for you, Dark. English is English. What can I say? It's a language. All right. For example, the translation, the plan of waging war. If you were to create a plan that was about waging war, the plan of waging war. Okay. That is a nominative or whatever with a genitive of waging, a genitive gerund with the object bellum. Okay. So we may use the gerund with its direct object. Consilium gerendi bellum, the plan of waging war. But we can put the object in the genitive and use the gerundive to modify that object. So the consilium, that remains the same, the plan of, now we have to go to the noun first. The object is war, the plan of waging war. So we're going to put war in the genitive, belly, and then we have to take gerundum and modify belly, which is genitive, neuter, singular, so gerendi. So you can literally translate it the plan of the war about to be waged, You can translate it simply with the gerund in English, which is preferred. the plan of waging war, or you can do it my way, which is a way that nobody recommends. But it's the only way to get the force of the gerundive in English, which is the plan of war-waging. The plan of war waging. Do that in your papers. See if your teachers like that. So, that's the gerundive. The Romans prefer it. Exactly, the plan of war waging. That is 100% what I say to get the force of the gerundive. But again, most of the times, the gerundive is turned into a gerund in English, and the noun becomes its object. Oh, thanks for the resub, Max! Doesn't sound like we'll be doing Golden Sun today, so brain check on that. Sometimes we do, Roz. Sometimes we definitely do have similar brains. What did you just get from me? I don't understand these emotes, even less than every other emote Twitch tries to give to me. Alright. So, we'll just run through a couple other examples. If it sounds confusing, you're not alone. Gerunds and gerundives are often a tripping point for students. I had friends in graduate school who were still tripping over it. So, you're not alone. My brain is broken enough that it makes sense to me. But not everybody has broken brains, like Roz and myself. So, you're probably better off. Free emotes to celebrate the launch of a new game. Oh, okay. They do kind of look like video game power-ups, you're right. Alright, so, gerund, the English way. Space faciendi pacem. The hope of making peace. Okay, so to switch that around, you take the noun, make that the case of the thing that you're going for. So the hope of peacemaking, hyphen. So if it's hope of, okay, of peace, that's a genitive. So pacis, and then we need the gerundive to be feminine genitive singular, faciendae. So space faciendae pacis, the hope of making peace. Translated the same. You will notice, of course, that in the first one, pacem is a accusative. In the second one, it's a genitive. And then you'll notice that the gerund versus the gerundive, gerunds only have 4 forms. So it's a neuter genitive. In the gerundive, it's a feminine genitive because it has all the adjective endings and it modifies the noun that otherwise would be its object. Queen Alice. I like that. Dark, you probably do have a point. The people who are here are probably broken like me. Alright. Locus idoneus pugando. A place that is suitable for fighting. Well, okay, this is a dumb comparison because you're not actually saying the same thing in the gerund versus the gerundive, so it's not super helpful in terms of comparison. So let's actually look at the gerundive first. Locus idoneus castris ponendis, a place suitable for putting ponendis camps, castris, pitching camps, for camp dash pitching. If you wanted to turn that into a gerund, it'd be a place suitable for putting ponendo, because you'd put it in the singular dative, and then camps you would have as the object of the verb. So it would be accusative direct object castra. Locus idoneus castra ponendo. That's how it goes. Yeah. You're so mean, Punch. Come here, Fudgy Fudge. I'll be nice to you. Come here. Come up here. Okay. All right. Misit equites ad insequendum. He sent horsemen to pursue, in order to pursue, ad insequendum. So here's actually a very important use of the gerund. Ad plus an accusative gerund gives you a purpose clause. He sent horsemen for the purpose of, in order to pursue. Ad plus gerund. There are other ways to set up purpose, but this is very popular. All right. Misit equites ad insequendos hostis. If you want to explain exactly what kind of things he's pursuing, and you want to use a gerundive, then you'll have the accusative plural hostis, because ad takes the accusative in this case. And then you would have the gerundive modifying hostis, also in the accusative plural masculine. Okay. Gerando fabulas magister pueris placuit. The teacher pleased the boys by telling stories. Nerando fabulas, by means of, ablative singular with an accusative direct object. But if you want to turn the whole phrase into a gerundive, the magister pueris placuit stays the same, but by means of, you take the object, make it ablative, fabulis, and then the gerundive, you put it in the feminine ablative plural, nerandis. Okay. So, the observations to take away. The gerund is a noun. Gerundive is an adjective. The gerund may stand alone or with an object, because it's a noun. A gerundive, as an adjective, needs a noun that it modifies. We're not going to worry about substantive adjectives here because it's a gerundive. If it were working substantively, you just used a gerund. All right. So the gerund, verbal noun, used in the genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, singular, based on the neuter, future passive participle. Yep. The gerundive, verbal adjective. I don't know if I agree with this must be used, but may be used instead of gerund plus object. All right. Even thesis is, yeah. So he's saying that it must be used in 2 cases and it can be used in other 2 cases. I'm just saying it's usually what's used in all the cases if the gerund has an object, because that's just the way the Romans preferred to think, right? They preferred to think in words that modify each other. And as we saw, one of the very important uses of the gerund and gerundive is purpose. Use the accusative with ad or the genitive with causa for the sake of. Let's get an example here. The second one, under the gerund, audiendi causa venerant. They came for the sake of hearing. The little footnote is important there. Causa always follows the genitive. So it's not going to be causa audiendi, it will be audiendi causa. You see it again here. Urbis videndi causa, not causa urbis videndi. They came for the sake of seeing the city. Or they came for the sake of city seeing. That just makes total sense, right? Put a hyphen. Flawless. But you can also use ad plus the accusative to express the same idea. They can be written with the subjunctive of purpose if you want. Yeah, sightseeing, city seeing. It is up to the author, as he notes here. In short expressions, the gerund and gerundive are more common if you don't need a lot of details. But if there's a lot going on in the purpose clause, you'll have the ut and the verb and all the details. All right, so genitive usually follows the noun that it's modifying. Oh, this is just predicate genitive. Okay. This is a weird throwaway thing to have here. If we wish to express the idea that the horse is Galba's, and not just Galba's horse, blah, 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 we would have equus est Galbae. The horse is of Galba. But since Galba's in the predicate and kind of completes the meaning of the sentence, it's called the predicate genitive. The horse is Galba's. Equus est Galbae. Predicate genitive. If it were equus Galbae est, that would probably mean the horse of Galba exists. It is the horse of Galba. So it just gives you a slightly different flavor. So the possessive genitive often stands in the predicate, especially after forms of sum, to be called the predicate genitive, just to give that slight extra emphasis that not that there is Galba's horse, but this horse is Galba's. Yeah, just different emphasis. It's not a big deal. All right. Oh, some idioms. Let's see what they got here. Aliqui negotium dare, to employ someone, to give business to someone. Okay. Novis rebus studere, to be eager for a revolution. Ah, very fun. New things, revolution. Yep. Re militaris peritissimus, the very skillful, peritissimus, in the art of war. Re militaris. Okay. Se sua quae omnia, himself and all his stuff. I don't even know if that's an idiom or just how you translate it. But okay, I guess an idiom is how you translate it. All right, anything else we've got here? Any good examples? All right, let's look at number 7. Hoc proelio facto quidam ex hostibus ad pacem petendam venerat. This has a lot of really cool things in it, so it's a good example sentence. So we got hoc proelio facto, these ablatives at the beginning of the sentence. What the heck? Oh, obviously, it's an ablative absolute. What else could it be? That's an excellent way to start your sentence. Especially when it's a perfect passive participle, facto. So with this battle having been done, after this battle was done, because the battle was done, blah, 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 quidam, certain ones, ex hostibus, from the enemy, so our kind of ablative of separation here, certain guys from the enemy came, venerunt, in order to, ad plus our gerundive for purpose, in order to peace seek, or seek peace, if you want to sound better English. If you want to sound better English, that's an excellent phrase that I just said. And we know it's a gerundive because as an am, you could write it ad pacem petendum, with a gerund with an object pacem. Either way is fine. This is just better. Punch is still being weird. I like people hearing me Englishing good. Hi, English, so good. Yeah, let's just look briefly over AO, but I think we'll stop before we do indirect statements. Because if people do watch these later, I want them to focus on doing gerund and gerundive practice for a while. But AO is just a little irregular verb, so we can just pop through that real quick. So, AO means to go. It's very important. Romans like going places. And Punch is laughing at me. And it's extremely important because this is one of those Life of Brian sketches. People called Romans, they go the house. So, if you want a little extra practice, you can watch that clip. It is available online. But basically, it is an irregular fourth conjugation verb. Most of the forms, it's just weird. The end. So the root of AO is actually a long I, and the cat is being really loud. I think he doesn't like that I'm talking and we're not listening to him, because it's time for him to get his wet food. So I apologize for that. Okay, the long I, the root of AO, is changed to E before a vowel, with the exception of the present participle nominative ENs. Don't worry, in the other cases, in the genitive, it becomes EUNTIS. Thanks, Latin. And in the perfect system, the V is regularly dropped, which is good because in the principal parts, they didn't even give you V. So that would have been really confusing if you suddenly saw a V in this text. So let's just look at, so the principal parts are AO, ire, EE, etum. So EE, the best principal part of them all, is sometimes EWE, IVI, but that V is often dropped because it's between two vowels and nobody cares. It's true. There are certain letters, when they come between vowels, they just got left behind. And this is one of those cases. S's and V's. In the perfect, other than it sometimes being VI and sometimes just being an I, the perfect is regular. Remember, our perfect is always regular. It's one of the beautiful things about Latin. In the present, yes, they're all irregular. And now I can't even remember what all of them are because it's been a really long time since I've looked at them. So I'm going to review them myself, and you should go to 499 and also review the forms. There's nothing too difficult compared to any other irregular verb. It's just sometimes it's an I, sometimes it's an E. So in the present, it's eo, is, it, imus, istis, eunt. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But it's really important, and it's where we get a lot of English words like exit. So you can see that list of important compounds there. Adeo, to go, approach, visit. Exeo, to exit, to go forth. Ineo, to go in, to begin, to start. Redeo, to return. Transeo, to pass through, to cross. All very important. Yeah, exeunt, plural of exit. Exactly. So that is, in English, the exact irregular Latin. They maintained it for this verb. So it's important. It's cool. Review it. I guess I can go stroll down there since we're wrapping up. Because it's not, indirect statement isn't hard per se. It really isn't. But where is 499? Where do I find 499? Here we go. But depending on how detailed they get, I want to make sure it gets plenty of time. But it's probably the last complicated thing to learn. From here, it's a little bit easier. You know, since we're at the end and we've already learned everything. Where's 499 at? All right, just to... give us some AO. So AO is it, emis is to say unt. Oh, it is regular and future and imperfect. I don't know why my brain could not get that information. So you have the stem E, the BA for the imperfect, and then ba. The future, the E stem, and then bo bis bit. Easy peasy. That's probably why I forgot it, because everything except for the present is regular. It's barely irregular, guys. You'll be fine. The imperative, ite, subjunctive, eam, because it's... If the subjunctive is eam, it's actually an irregular... No, I'll still call it an irregular third. But maybe I should call it an irregular second. Either way, slightly irregular. But not too bad. Just, it's always I, except for when it's E. There you go. Watch the clip on Monty Python. It will make more sense. All right. The information can be yours. $4.99. A BA for the imperfect. I think a lot of universities offer those. That's a good joke. That's what I got. The imperfect BA. All right. That was a little bit short, but we're getting near the end. It's a lot of things. So thanks for hopping by. Next week, we'll do indirect statement and something else. Let's see, review. All right, let's just look ahead. So lesson 77 just starts review, 100%. 76, genitive and ablative of quality. Wow, yeah. Dative of purpose. Subjunctive indirect question. Pharaoh, dative with compound. Indirect statement. Yeah, we're maybe like 2 more weeks. And then we'll be done, and then I'll think about what I want to do from there. I don't know if I'll read a text or do what. I guess chime in chat next week or in Discord if there's something in particular you want to do. I guess I can just go through the reading matter in here, and that'll be a way to start. Keep using this text. But yeah, it should only probably be about 2 more weeks. Unless I feel really bored next week and just finish it, because nothing remaining is difficult. The only 2 challenging bits are indirect, the statement, indirect question, and they kind of go hand in hand. And I've kind of already talked about both. So, nevertheless, we will give them their day next week. Everybody have a good night, and I'll